Hello there, my name is Jack Edwards and welcome to my YouTube channel.
On tonight's program, ladies and gentlemen, we have something that's going to make you sick.
The end of term is rapidly approaching at a terrifying rate, which means that it is essay deadline season. I have got so many deadlines. So today is Wednesday the... What date is it? Today is Wednesday the 27th of November, and today I am going to spend my morning planning and researching for an essay that I have in my post-war fiction and poetry module. I get so many questions about how to start writing an essay, how to plan for an essay, how to do well in an essay, especially at university, because no one ever really teaches you. And I'm now in my third year at university, and only now do I feel like I have a proper method to the madness that is writing an essay. It has taken me a while to perfect this. Like in my first year, I was very much like, I would just do whatever felt right and try my best, and it often went very wrong. In second year, the pace picks up a little bit and things went even worse, and then I sort of, over the course of the year, managed to work out a way of researching, keeping track of my research, and writing a good essay to the point where by the end of the year, every essay I wrote got a first. So I'm hoping we can continue that sort of momentum in third year, and I've got my first sort of big deadlines coming up. And so with this video, I thought I would basically show you how I plan and research for an essay. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is pick an essay question. I've already chosen the theme, or because my degree is an English Lit degree, the book that I'm going to write on. So I'm going to be writing on The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark, which is a book I really enjoyed reading and then studying. Like the lectures and the tutorial that I had on this was so fascinating. And basically this essay that I'm writing today is a formative, which means it doesn't count towards my overall degree. It's sort of like a practice test run. And this is a book that I am very likely to write about in my exam, and so I thought it was useful to sort of do lots of research now, because obviously that will come in handy later down the line. And if you're writing about it in an essay, you think about it a lot more, so it's probably more likely to stick. So yeah, that's why I've chosen to write on The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. So I would definitely say that it is beneficial to go into looking for a question to answer with one or two topics in mind, or one or two books in mind that you already know those are what you want to really focus on, just because then you're thinking about every single question in that context, and like, how could I apply this book to that question? How could I apply this book to that question? But be sort of flexible with it, you know? Basically for this essay, we've just been told to like look at past paper questions and find one and pick one to answer, so that is what I'm going to do first and foremost. Okay, so I've picked two potential questions that I could answer on based on like past papers. The two sort of themes that I've picked, which I think are appropriate, I guess, to the novel that I'm writing on are, there's one about scapegoats, and especially women as scapegoats. And then the other option is basically one on generational divides, and how post-war fiction approaches generational gaps, and how there's this George Orwell quote that basically says that people believe themselves to be wiser than the generation that come after them and more intelligent than the generation that come before them. And yes, it's basically a discussion of that within the context of a novel. So what I'll do now is just on a scrap piece of paper, just quickly mind map each of those potential questions and come up with sort of ideas. I'll look over my lecture and tutorial notes just to see if anything that I've already done could be considered research for those two questions, or one of the two questions, and that should sort of narrow that down to just one question that I'm going to do all of my research on. Okay, so I've just finished up my big old brainstorm brain dump, and so what I'm thinking is I'm going to write this essay in the context of Calvinism. I always think that finding a nuance or niche to the question is what sort of pushes you up to be able to get those top grades. Like, you can write an answer which basically responds to the question, but if you have this like spin on it where you talk about it through the lens of Calvinism or something along those lines, I think that can kind of really boost you. This book basically takes place in Scotland, which has quite interesting history with Calvinism, and there is this this sort of generational struggle in the context of that. So that's what I'm going to write about. The next bit of the process is arguably the most important and the reason I'm making this video to sort of show you. So what I'm going to do now is begin my research, and in order to keep track of that and do productive research, I'm going to make an essay research log. Now I absolutely swear by these, so I will show you how I make one. So this is an essay research log for an essay that I did last year that I got a first on. So I make these sort of tables, and I'll do this twice, one for primary research and one for secondary sources, but the format is exactly the same for each one. So I will show you this one. So the first column is the source, so I'll just put in the author and the name of the article or book. Then here I will have the quote or the idea. Like sometimes you don't need to actually quote from it, like I'll add little notes in here that aren't quotes directly from the text, but I'll always put quotations in quotation marks just so that I know that that is something that I have not written, like that has come from someone else. Then in this column is the page number or page numbers. I'll try and find an example. Oh, here we go. So basically if it is just one page that you're quoting from, then you just put P dot and then the page number. If it's multiple pages, so like the quote spans across multiple pages, then PP dot and then the page span that the quote is on. Yeah, and then I will have the publishing information just here, because when you add citations and references and then make your bibliography at the end, you will need that, so it's worth just getting them as you go. And then I always leave a column for additional information or analysis, just in case I want to make notes as and when I go along. But also I handwrite a lot of notes afterwards, and so I find it useful to leave some sort of gaps on the page. So you can kind of see, like, I just have so many pages of research, and this is just a good way of keeping track of all of it. And basically what I'll do is I'll do all of the research on this document online, just copy and paste all of my information into here, and I just make this on a Word document. Then I print it off and go through everything with a coloured pen and make little notes on everything just for myself, so that, because obviously you spend quite a lot of time just doing all of the research, so I think it's really useful after you've done all the research to go back through it and be able to actually like read through what you've written as one collective body of research. I hope that makes sense, but basically I'm going to show you now how I do it when I actually research an essay. So I'm going to be making one of those documents for a brand new essay today. So I thought I'd show you like a finished version before I make a new one. Does that make sense? I don't know. Next, I need to find some things to read and some research to do. So firstly, I'm going to have a look on my university library's archives just by searching keywords, so like the novel's title and the author's name alongside like the core sort of themes of my essay, so like Calvinism, generations, the setting of Scotland and Edinburgh in particular. So I'm also just looking up some things that are completely unrelated to the book, so Edinburgh's history with Calvinism, that kind of thing, and then I'm just opening them all up into tabs. And then after that, what I'll do is go through all of those and check which are available to read online and which ones are only available as physical copies in the library, and then I will reserve them and go pick them up tomorrow. I'm going to do a library day tomorrow, so I'll go and do my research on those tomorrow. And then also just Googling. Google Scholar is particularly useful. Also websites like JSTOR, although one thing to remember about websites like JSTOR is that because they're sort of like storage websites for journals, things that have been published in the last like 5 years won't be on JSTOR yet, and as a result you could miss something pretty major, so it is worth doing other sort of research as well. Okay, so I have opened up all of the research that I'm going to do as sort of my first initial research. When I read different articles and books, I'll always check the references and bibliographies for other potential articles that haven't come up when I've searched them, which those authors have used to influence their argument. And checking bibliographies and footnotes and stuff is so useful. It can lead you to absolute gold mines. So that is what I will do. So that is kind of how I start writing an essay, I guess. I'm going to continue on with that, but I thought it would be useful to sort of tell you what my next steps would be. So after I have finished filling in my essay research log, I will print this off, and then like I said earlier, I will go through with a coloured pen and read through everything again, making notes as I go, reading this as a full body of research, identifying gaps in the research that I still need to do, and most importantly, identifying themes, because obviously each author, each book, each article will have a slightly slightly different perspective. And so then once you've identified like 4 or 5 core ideas that run throughout all of the research that you've done, whether people disagree or agree on them, or whether there are slight nuances on perspectives, each of those core themes becomes a paragraph in the essay. So then you're drawing upon the ideas of multiple critics, sort of identifying the discussion and the dialogue around this argument, I guess, and putting all of these individual critics that you've discussed into conversation with one another in the essay. And yeah, then I would head back onto my laptop, reopen this document, and I would add in some of my handwritten notes into the additional notes section, and also color code it. So what I would do is make a plan for the essay with each of the core themes and identify a kind of order that they should go in, just so that there's a clear structure from the offset. Then I will go back through the research document and color code based on which paragraph each quote or idea is relevant to. Not all of them will be, and that's fine, but I find it really useful to have all of my quotes that are to do with, say, the setting of Edinburgh in the colour red. Then, and I know this sounds super like long-winded as a process, but it works so well when you come to writing. I'll copy all of the quotes of one colour throughout the research document and paste them under the paragraph heading in my plan, so that then when I come to writing each individual paragraph, I've got all of the research that is specific to that theme in one place, and you can just copy and paste it into your essay. Okay, that is how I plan and research for an essay. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to head to the library to do even more research, and I'll probably spend another 2 days, as well as the rest of today, doing all of my reading and research and planning, and then spend 2 days writing, then sleep on it, and on the 3rd day, go back through the whole thing, read through it, make sure it makes sense, after having a bit of distance from it, because you get so caught up in your ideas and what you're writing that you forget that sometimes it doesn't actually make that much sense. So I'll wake up the next morning and read through it with fresh eyes, make sure the bibliography and all of the references are correct and right, and then I will submit it. I hope that is useful to you. I hope that maybe this could help with a potential essay that you are writing. This method is genuinely how my essays went from 2-2s to firsts last year. So it is tried and tested. It does work so well for me, for sure. If this was helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more from me. Let me know what other content you want to see from me. But for now, I've been Jack Edwards, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.